I'm your host. I'm Tobias Silberzahn, partner at McKinsey and head of the Health Tech Network. And I'm extremely excited to talk today with a real patient innovator. Welcome, Roeland. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Excited to join.
Yeah, and thank you to the HIMSS colleagues from HIMSS Accelerate for hosting us and having us today. Roeland, let's dive right in. I'm really, looking forward to not only talk about, healthcare innovation in broad strokes and about companies, etc. I always find it really interesting to hear the personal story behind all of it. So would love to hear a little bit more. How did you become an innovator in healthcare?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, it's been a few years since I started working as a freelancer. I think that was the first step, leaving a steady job, which was mainly caused by having a chronic disease as well. So I was really struggling by keeping 9-to-5 job because of the regular issues. So symptoms, sick leave, things like that. So at that point, I decided to start freelancing. I've been entrepreneurial all my life, basically. So always looking for opportunities, doing side hustles and things like that. So it made a lot of sense. And there I got introduced into the healthcare world through a few different companies that I started working for. So I started working for a few different startups in sleep therapy, for example. Well, some other things. From there on, I got a project at Skin Vision, which is an Amsterdam-based company focused on the early detection of skin cancer. Came in there when it was only the CEO and an investor, basically. So it was very early stage, and yeah, over the years started working more and more for that company, and at some point full time. So there I learned really that there was something missing in my professional life all along, which was purpose. So also when I was freelancing, I was working for these commercial companies, trying to help them sell more shirts or shoes or whatever random product, which is nice, of course, to improve your knowledge and your experience, but it was not really fulfilling. So when I started in healthcare, it really felt like I found what I was looking for, and speaking to patients and hearing how you are helping them and how you are making a difference. And yeah, that really sparked something. Also, of course, in regards to my personal situation living with this disease. So yeah, I think that was really a turning point for me, realizing like, okay, this is what I really need to do. And at some point it became clear to me that I needed to combine the two. So both my personal and professional life were connecting, and I needed to do this basically for people like myself, including myself. So yeah, that was when Nori Health was born, and when I decided to become a full-time founder and try my best to get something off the ground to really make a difference for people like me.
And since more people have been joining while you started, everyone, you are very welcome to submit questions that you have to Roeland in the chat, and we'll pick them up. Roeland, can you say a little bit more about what was it that you know, being a chronic disease patient yourself, what was it that you felt was not quite there, which then also led to you starting your company?
Yeah, so I think I was really missing the additional support. So the medical support, of course. I live in the Netherlands, so I think for the whole of Western Europe, you can safely say that our medical system is quite good, high quality, and so I had no complaints there. But I saw my doctor every 6 months for about 7 minutes. where we talked about blood work in general, how I was doing, and if everything was okay-ish, then well, see you in 6 months. So I started coming in with questions like, okay, I'm dealing with these very low energy levels, like I cannot work for 2-3 hours in a row before I have to lay down. Like, this is not something that I can do. I'm in my 20s. Like, I see this big difference in quality of life between me and my friends. Like, I really need to make a change. And the answer was constantly like, okay, yeah, this is part of the disease. Like, you have to accept this, and it is what it is, basically. And so I started looking for other solutions myself, and I saw that, yeah, there were some people trying to do cool stuff, but it was not really valuable yet. It was not at a quality that I was looking for. So yeah, I decided that I was going to try it myself. That's basically the where it all started. So what we see, I think, and luckily what people also from a medical perspective are more and more realizing is that the way we behave in daily life, and the way our mindset works, and the way we eat, the way we drink, the way we exercise, like everything impacts both symptoms and quality of life. And you can make a huge difference by really taking good care of yourself and managing the disease in between those hospital visits. So I think you are seeing a shift there, which is really cool. And yeah, we are making a little contribution to that as well.
Thank you, Roeland. You know, you just mentioned your contribution, and when you look at sort of the impact that you are now creating and the positive benefits you are creating for patients in the chronic disease space, what is the impact that you are most excited about?
Yeah, very good question. We are, of course, looking at a whole set of things that we are tracking and that we are hoping to improve. So some are more short-term, others more long-term. When I look at the short-term results, so the ones that we have gathered so far, that we have just published about as well, by the way, is that we are seeing a very big improvement in control. So we see that control is really a key word for people dealing with a chronic disease in general, but specifically for inflammatory bowel disease, which we focus on for now. Like, people are not in control of their own health, not in control of their own bodies, not in control of their life, basically, and that is very frustrating. So we are giving back a little bit of control, so a little bit more prediction about your body responding to your behavior, things like that. So that is very exciting to see, of course. Also, the group of people dealing with extreme fatigue is decreasing as well after completing the program in the app. Yeah, so those are things that we really are excited about, and that we are going to build more evidence around in the coming time this year, basically. I wanted to say one more thing, but I lost it there. Well, maybe later.
And can you say a little bit more about what your solution is that you are offering, and how then patients or caregivers or healthcare professionals are using them, and how also maybe some testimonials, or what are you hearing?
Yeah, sure. So basically what we have developed is a digital therapy app, which consists of 2 parts. So the core part is a 6-week program, and then there are regular check-ins throughout the rest of the year. So it is a constant solution, basically. So within those 6 weeks, people have access to a digital coach, which is called Nori, and patients have conversations with Nori through text-based conversations or text-based chats, in which they address one theme per week. And within the theme, they have specific subtopics that they can complete. So on one hand, it's very practical, so about diet, about hydration, about stress reduction. On the other hand, it's a more holistic approach towards low energy, mental stability, work-life balance, family, things like that. So everything is rooted in scientific research, specifically impacting either symptoms or quality of life for people with IBD. So it's very specific research that shows that this makes a difference. And so all those things combined hopefully make a big impact. So yeah, that is what we are trying to do.
Thank you. And there was a question in the chat asking, how do you record lifestyle and nutrition choices by patients, or do you record them at all? And how do you relate them to symptoms and create recommendations?
Let me read the question very quickly. Okay. So what we do is basically set a baseline when patients come in. So we build a personal profile based on their current behavior, their current lifestyle, their current complaints, things that are going well. And based upon that, we can shape the program into something that is most valuable to them. Also, Nori consists of a combination between open and closed questions. So the closed questions, of course, being yes or no, basically directing them in the right way through the conversation. The open questions are there to collect challenges, experiences, frustrations, a lot more context from patients to further adapt the program to their needs.
And
hopefully that is yes, sir.
Thank you. I was just wondering, and is it then usually that the sort of the demand for this type of solution comes from the patient directly, or is it that it's sort of mainly prescribed by doctors, or how does it work in practice?
Yeah, so of course the demand right now is from patients, definitely. We are at a stage where we still build the clinical evidence around what we are doing. So we basically have a two-pronged approach right now. So one is that we are providing this to patients. So we are doing that, for example, through patient foundations. We are working with pharmaceutical companies who are providing this to patients. And at the same time, we are working on a randomized clinical trial to further build this evidence around both the outcomes, but also the health economics, in order to make this a part of the care pathway. So then you are looking at prescriptions and things like that. So we are not there yet, but we are building towards it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's an additional question in the chat about what's your long-term vision for the company. Do you see sort of your company as a digital therapeutic company in the long term, or also developing digital biomarkers or other things with the data?
Yeah, well, you basically answered your own question there. No, that is definitely where we are going to. So the first step is definitely DTX, digital therapeutic. And the data that we are constantly collecting is also being enriched by looking into connections with other devices, for example, specifically the data that we are collecting on our phones every day, things like that. And in the end, what we want to do with the data is digital biomarkers for sure, and specifically looking at predictive models. So looking at, okay, what can we predict in short and long term about the increase in symptoms, possible hospitalizations, medication non-adherence, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of big plans to work with that data, of course. Yeah. And about the question about licensing, it is definitely something, of course, that we are having a lot of conversations about, because yeah, this is something that a lot of companies are looking for. So yeah, definitely.
There's a new question also about geographic expansion. Can you say a little bit more about how you think about expansion in other countries across Europe or even beyond?
Yeah, sure. So our current focus is, logically our home market, so the Benelux. Also, UK is very important to us. We are currently starting our first US-based project as well, which will be in a new disease area. So it will not be IBD, but it will also be in the inflammatory domain. And within Europe, we are specifically looking at countries which are advancing regulation fast. So, of course, Germany, France, countries like that that are really looking towards digital health and digital therapeutics and making it part of the existing treatment in a very startup friendly way. Let's put it like that. So yeah, I think those are quite logical to look at.
Thank you. When we look at sort of chronic disease management and how people will be living with their disease and the biomarkers, what do you see, especially in the gastrointestinal space that you are operating in? Do you see that this is then going more towards a health coaching or a complication prediction, or where do you also see the biggest improvement, right? I guess nutrition is of course the obvious one, right? But then the other factors that then impact healthy living, right? Sleep, fitness, stress management, etc. Can you say a little bit more how you see those different factors coming together for gastrointestinal chronic diseases based on your experience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think at some point it will all blend together. So what we are seeing now in COVID, of course, is that everything is advanced at a very high rate. So you see digital really advancing, really taking its place within treatment, within the care pathway. You see how important it can be and how valuable it can be. So I think you will see that in a lot of different fields, and definitely within gastro as well. Like we are constantly collecting so much data, like we know so much, so it's such a shame that we don't connect everything and just learn from everything. Like when you see studies about pollution, for example, about the industrialization, you see now that in Asia, for example, like where IBD rates used to be super low, you see now that in recent years, like diagnoses are up to par with European diagnosis. And you see a lot of that stuff happening, and nothing is done to prevent these diagnoses from happening. So I think we will become much more intelligent on a global scale, but also on a personal level. We will connect all these devices and all these data sets that we are generating in order to predict when things are going wrong. So at some point I had a surgery where they had to remove about 20 centimeters of my bowel. So I think those kind of things can be predicted if you know more. Like if you monitor in a much more detailed way, you could have seen this coming, basically. So I think within treatment, you also see a shift there where people that just have been diagnosed don't get very light medication to try to keep this down, but they immediately go into heavy medication because they see on long term that disease severity is much lower on average. So I think we become much more intelligent about the way that we treat this, and that's hopefully where it's going.
And for you personally, what has been helped you the most managing your disease? If we go beyond nutrition, did you feel that sleep or stress management or fitness or some of the other factors that generally have impact on health and well-being had a big impact for you?
Yeah, I think the most important factors for me, diet, of course, but that's very clear. But the work-life balance, I think, is super important. So that reduces a lot of stress, that gives back a lot of control, and that really makes a difference. Also, the mental health or the mental stability side of things is very important. So I have been working on that in recent years, yeah, that is when you really see this connection between the brain and the gut, like those two are the main factors within your body, and they are really closely connected. However, we don't really notice that in a normal day. When you start working on that and when you start exploring that connection, you see how powerful it is, and that can really make a change. So I think those things have been very helpful. Yeah.
Mm. How do you think about health literacy and maybe also digital health literacy? But you know, I read the new WHO health literacy country comparison, where my home country comes in at the very bottom. You know, and it's read it. I guess it's fair to say that in Germany, most people seem to know more about how their car works than how their body works. So how does health literacy come into this from your perspective, and what are you seeing with the patients that you are working with?
Yeah, I think overall, like when you are dealing with something like this, you are forced to increase your knowledge and to learn more about the condition, but also how it is impacted. So I think what we see is when people are diagnosed, well, like me, over 10 years ago, you see that the average level of knowledge is quite high. I think the main issue is with people who just been diagnosed, like the first year. You see a lot of problems also with medication. For example, I think pharmaceutical companies can underline this problem that, like, within the first year, most people stop taking their medication or don't take it in the correct way. And I think you can see the same problem in knowledge, in behavior, in education overall. So I think it's definitely an issue, and I think digital health will play a major role in that. I think in the coming years you will see a lot of combination treatment, so you will see medication and digital health, of course, really coming together, and there that problem can be fixed, or at least it will be addressed heavily. So yeah, it will change. But what we are currently seeing, for example, also is that a lot of people don't understand how their medication works, for example. So they have been taking this steroid or biologic for years, and they have no idea what it does. Like those kind of things, of course, are very easy to fix. Also because then you understand better what potential side effects are, how you can avoid them, how you can live in a healthier way to support the medication. To make sure that your body responds better to it. So yeah, still a lot to improve there, but at least we know. So
yeah, and maybe for the last 5 minutes of the session, Roeland, if we look 10 years ahead, so how do you think about chronic disease management from I don't know, 2030 perspective?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I always see this science fiction like image in my head where we constantly have this hologram monitoring everything that we do in our vitals and predictive models. I'm not sure if he will be there within that time frame, but I think overall what we will have is a much better understanding of our bodies and what is going on, so that we are not surprised when people just undergo very heavy symptoms or just collapse or things like that. I think we will monitor things very closely, and of course a very nice combination between all the tools that we will have available, both online and offline. I think if we have blended everything together at that point, then yeah, then I'm very happy. So of course, when you look at the adoption of digital tools within traditional treatment, it's still very, very low. We still have conversations with healthcare professionals or hospitals who just say, well, we don't do anything with apps, so you can just leave. So that is something that will then hopefully change.
You know, especially when we are looking into the US, right, we see that digital therapeutics, patient remote monitoring, right, and usually then wearables are also part of the game, or other connected medical devices are part of the wearables and the measurement. When you look at the gastrointestinal chronic diseases, do you see they are more going down the route of digital therapeutics, or do you see that digital therapeutics might be over the years also morphing more into patient remote monitoring?
I'm not sure where it will go. I think both will play a major. Sorry for that. I thought I put my phone on silent. Not sure why it came through. So I think both will play a major part. I think what we are seeing are things like smart pills, pills that have a camera, pills that can monitor, that can go through the entire intestinal system. I think those things will be vital. Like I had research done that was horrific, basically, and would have been so much easier if I just had swallowed a pill that would go through my entire system. So like I'm 100% for innovation in that area as well. But I think digital therapeutics, of course, will play a major part. Like I'm not doing this if I don't believe in it, of course. Like I think that this will really change healthcare and also IBD. So yeah.
Final question. There was a question in the chat about Asia. Have you looked at Asia, or are you fully focused on Europe?
No, sure. We have been looking at it. Like I said before, I see the situation. I see that it's changing. I see that this is becoming a very big problem in basically every part of the world. Of course, we as an early stage company, like we cannot do everything at once. So we need to make choices. It's also really about making something that is addressed to the local population, the local culture. So it's not just about translating stuff and giving people access. Like there's a whole different way of treatment, and so yeah, it is definitely a very important market to look at in the near future. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I see we're already at the end of our short innovation fireside chat. So I say thank you to you, Roeland. Thank you, Caitlin, Taylor, and the HIMSS Accelerate team for having and hosting us. And have a nice rest of your Friday and a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.